Hey, before we dive in, a quick heads up. This series is called Validating the BPD Life, and that's exactly what it's here to do. Validate the experience of living with borderline personality disorder, hopefully making you feel a little less alone. That said, if you don't have BPD, there's still value here, especially if you've loved or currently love someone who does. But fair warning, we'll be talking about some heavy stuff. Self-harm, self-destructive behavior, hospitalizations, and a lot of emotional pain. You might feel grief, guilt, anger, rage, shame, or confusion while watching. And if you do, that makes sense. Don't judge yourself for feeling anything. Don't shame yourself for being triggered. Emotions show up for a reason, even if you don't know that reason right away. If it helps, try saying, "It makes sense I'd feel this way after everything I've been through." And if you've ever been hospitalized or felt like you were losing your mind, I wrote a book about my own experience at a psych ward, and you can grab it at the link right here. Or here. To be honest, I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, so I'm just going to say grab it. It supports the work I do and might help you feel a little less lonely on this journey. All right, without further delay and nothing more to say, buckle up, Buttercup. It is time to walk the middle path towards common humanity and a wise mind. Before understanding why my life was so fucking hard at times, before the accurate diagnosis of BPD, you were either God or Satan to me, until I slept and ate. Usually. This is something that happens to almost all people suffering and healing through borderline personality disorder, and it's not exclusive to borderline alone. Splitting is a psychological defense mechanism where a person sees themselves, others, or situations in extremes without recognizing the middle ground. This all-or-nothing thinking can cause individuals to categorize people and experiences as either entirely good or completely bad, with no room for complexity or nuance. It's a common feature of borderline personality disorder, but can also appear in other conditions. The term splitting comes from the concept of splitting parts of the self or others into polar opposites. People with BPD often experience intense emotional fluctuations, and our relationships may be characterized by splitting. We might idealize someone, seeing them as perfect and flawless one moment, then suddenly devalue or demonize them the next, seeing them as totally bad and or untrustworthy. This can cause abrupt shifts in how we relate to others, leaving little room for balanced, realistic perceptions of people or situations. For example, we may often go through an idealization to devaluation yo-yo. For so long, I could not understand why I might initially feel a strong connection to a new friend or partner, thinking they can do no wrong, only to quickly feel betrayed by a small mistake. I could go from seeing a person as my savior to my monster for doing something minor, like forgetting a text message. Or I'd get caught up in black and white thinking about how I viewed myself. I could feel like I was either a complete success or a total failure, depending on my latest accomplishment or perceived mistake. A minor setback could make me feel like I'm utterly fucking worthless, despite all my previous achievements. The cool thing is, I don't know if it's cool per se. Well, cool in the sense that we're not special and this happens to a lot of other people too, which is, I guess, cool. Splitting isn't unique to BPD. It can also appear in people with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, and sometimes, depression or anxiety disorders as well. Someone with NPD might view themselves as a flawless genius in one moment and as an utter failure the next. They could also split others into admirers, people who praise them and meet their needs, and enemies, people who don't support them or challenge them. For example, a person with NPD might view a colleague as a perfect ally when they compliment them. But if the colleague disagrees with them on something, they could suddenly be seen as an enemy who is no longer trustworthy or worthy of respect. In ASPD, splitting can manifest as seeing people as either tools to be used or obstacles to be eliminated. This kind of black and white thinking leads to manipulative or reckless behaviors, with little to no empathy for others' complex humanity. For example, a person with ASPD may view an acquaintance as a valuable ally when they can benefit from them, but once that person is no longer useful, they may see them as expendable, or as a threat to their goals. And if you're thinking, but Stephen, I'm depressed. Surely my utter despair could not result in splitting, right? Wrong-o, friendo. You are in this club with a guest pass often. People with depression may experience splitting in the way they view their future or the people around them. They might see themselves as a failure one day and then shift to thinking of themselves as a lost cause the next. Similarly, they might feel completely abandoned by others, even when no actual abandonment has occurred. For example, someone with depression may think, "Nobody cares about me," when feeling down, only to suddenly feel very isolated and angry, assuming that everyone around them is neglectful or uncaring, even if their loved ones are supportive. Where my anxious kings, queens, and queens at? Guess what? There's still plenty of room in the pool. Jump on in, because splitting can also appear in anxiety, where a person might see a situation as either an immediate catastrophe or a complete success, with no in between. They may assume that a minor mistake at work will lead to being fired, or that a single argument with a friend means the end of the relationship. For example, someone with generalized anxiety disorder may perceive a small disagreement with a family member as a sign that the entire relationship is in jeopardy, causing them to overreact or avoid the person altogether. So I think we can mostly all agree splitting is total ass. Not great ass like Chris Evans or Idris Elba or Her Holiness Beyonce. Splitting is the airplane, no AC on the subway, post-diarrhea ass. Okay, you know what? That image actually grossed me out too. I apologize. Anyway, why does splitting occur? What possible function could it serve us? Well, splitting typically occurs as a way of coping with overwhelming emotions or a lack of stable self-identity. It provides a simplified, though distorted, way of understanding relationships and emotions, especially for those who may have had unstable or invalidating experiences growing up. With my BPD, for example, splitting often happened because I had learned to view emotional experiences as either good or bad, making it hard to integrate the complexity of my feelings or others' behaviors. It could feel too overwhelming to accept both the positive and negative aspects of a person or situation, so my mind would split them into opposing extremes. Okay, so problem spotted, reason understood, fucking now what? What do we do? Well, here's what the fuck I did. I smoked a lot of cigarettes, a lot of weed, and had plenty of scotch. But that didn't tend to work out for me. Ever. Which is weird, because you'd think the coping tools of some of Hollywood's fave baddies would help with emotional overwhelm and suffering. Huh, are they selling us a lie? Just kidding. Not about the lie thing. They are. Kidding that that's what I continue to do. Oh, that's 100% what I did at first, and thankfully, with a competent and dialectical therapist, a rarity in the psycho wild, I was directed towards DBT. DBT and other therapeutic approaches work to help individuals with splitting by teaching mindfulness, distress tolerance, and emotion regulation skills. The goal is to develop a more balanced view of self and others, allowing for flexibility in emotions and relationships, and helping to break the cycle of black and white thinking. Through dialectical thinking, that word is going to come up a lot. A person can learn to hold two opposing truths at once, such as, I love you and I'm hurt by something you did. I can have flaws and still be a worthwhile person. There is one element of DBT that is an absolute game changer, and that is mindfulness. Try not to think of it as the guru asking Aang to let go of Katara. Don't touch that scene with your grubby live-action fingers, Netflix. Or a Buddhist guru asking you to let go of yourself to find yourself, which... What? In this context, mindfulness helps us cope with splitting by teaching us to observe our thoughts, feelings, and reactions without immediately jumping to extremes or reacting impulsively. It encourages us to become more aware of the present moment without labeling things as good or bad, which is a hallmark of splitting. By practicing mindfulness, individuals can learn to notice when they're falling into black and white thinking and pause before making judgments about themselves, others, or situations. Mindfulness fosters a more balanced, nuanced perspective by helping us do 5 things. Number 1, observe without judgment. Instead of labeling experiences or people as all good or all bad, mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts and emotions without assigning value to them. For example, you might notice, I'm feeling hurt, instead of thinking, this person is terrible, allowing space to recognize the complexity of the situation. Number 2, increase emotional awareness. Mindfulness helps us become more aware of our emotional responses and identify when intense feelings are influencing our perceptions. This awareness can help reduce the automatic shift between idealization and devaluation by allowing time to recognize and process the emotions without immediately acting on them. 3, create space between stimulus and response. Mindfulness allows us to pause before reacting, which is crucial in interrupting the cycle of splitting. This pause provides time to assess whether the extreme reaction is based on present facts or emotional distortion, allowing for a more balanced, thoughtful response. Number 4, practice acceptance. Mindfulness teaches acceptance of both pleasant and painful feelings as natural parts of life. It encourages us to hold space for these feelings without needing to immediately fix or change them, helping to integrate the complexity of situations and people rather than splitting them into opposites. And number 5, cultivate self-compassion. By practicing mindfulness, we can learn to be kinder and more understanding toward ourselves when we notice splitting patterns. Instead of harshly judging ourselves for having these thoughts, we can gently acknowledge them and redirect our attention toward a more balanced perspective. Overall, mindfulness helps to break the cycle of splitting by fostering a more flexible and accepting approach to emotions and relationships, allowing us to integrate the complexity of our experiences rather than falling into extreme, polarized thinking. With time and practice, the hope is that we can soften the extremes and find a healthier, more balanced way of interacting with ourselves and others. Honestly, y'all, splitting is the worst, as I'm sure you know. And if you've literally just learned what it is right now, you're welcome. Just kidding. Or am I? Be kind to yourself. Splitting doesn't split from your life, pun, just because you know what it is. God damn, if knowledge alone led to behavior change, I'd have been good about 50 books ago. Thankfully, what I do is something we can all do. Practice, 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 practice. Practice recognizing when we are splitting, practice choosing skills which help us tolerate it, change it, or simply notice it. The road towards bridging our often extreme thoughts into a dialectical, cohesive outlook on ourselves and the world is a wide and winding path. And many monsters be lurking among it. Thankfully, though, none of the monsters have to be you.